Hi everyone, welcome to Teachly University and welcome to my lecture on how to ace your next high school or college paper. This is a great lecture if you're a high school or college student who maybe is not getting the grades that you want to get in your essays. Maybe you're frustrated, you're struggling a little bit with your writing, and you're just looking to get that edge. Maybe there's just something that you're missing or you don't quite understand with some of these papers, and that's what I want to help you with in this lecture. And as a writing tutor, I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of writing students just like you on a one-on-one basis. And oftentimes I've seen students like this one here in this image where they're struggling and they're frustrated with their writing. And the reason is that oftentimes many students, like with math, they advance to one course after the other, or one grade after the other. And what happens when they reach higher level courses, their writing skills just aren't up to par, and they end up struggling when they get difficult and challenging writing assignments, and they end up struggling and getting bad grades. And I want to try to help alleviate that in this lecture. But the one thing I want to stress here is that I can guide you in the right direction as far as how to improve your grades. It's ultimately up to you. You have to take personal responsibility for your grades and for doing your research and putting in the effort to improve your writing. So the purpose of this lecture is really to answer this simple question. What do professors look for in an A plus paper? And this is a question that you want to be asking yourself whenever you get a writing assignment for one of your classes. What does a professor look for? What is expected of me in my assignment or in my essay? And in this lecture, we're going to go over a sample MLA paper. So I actually attached the link in the video description below. I encourage you to pause the video, click on the link, and read that sample essay before we move forward. That's only going to help us when we finally reach the sample MLA paper that we're going to go over a bit in a couple minutes. So I assume that you paused the video and you took the time to read the sample essay. So the first thing that professors look for is that you follow the assignment instructions. This is common sense, but oftentimes I've encountered many students who got poor grades because they didn't follow the essay guidelines. Perhaps professor wants you to use MLA or APA format, or the professor only wants you to use certain websites or databases to do research, or maybe even the professor wants to use a specific font. That's how picky they can be. Regardless, you want to follow the assignment instructions and the guidelines, read the syllabus. That's an easy thing to do. Organization is also very important. Every paragraph serves a specific purpose. And the goal of organizing your essays is that you create flow for the reader and you make it easy for the reader to understand the message that you're trying to convey in the essay. And oftentimes I've encountered many students when they've gotten poor grades on their essays is because they're all over the place, their ideas and their content are disorganized, there's no flow, and it makes it very difficult to read, and the essay ends up being very choppy. So we want to create organization in our essay. Well researched, this is also important. If you don't understand the topic that you're writing about, it's going to reflect poorly in your essay. You're going to write a poorly written essay. If, for example, you're writing an essay, say on Bitcoin, and you're not very familiar with Bitcoin, well, you probably want to do some research and have a basic understanding of what it is before you write your essay. That's very important. Proper grammar is another one. And oftentimes, a lot of the grammatical mistakes, like sentence fragments or punctuation issues, can be resolved by simply going back and reading over your essay. I like to read my essay out loud. That really helps. When you do that, you can actually pick up through the inflection of your voice some of the mistakes that you're making. You can correct some of these errors. But grammar is important. Your professor more than likely will dock points off your essay for those little grammatical mistakes, so you want to shore that up. It's properly formatted, whether it's MLA or APA format. We want to make sure we follow those specific guidelines for APA or MLA. And as you'll see in the sample essay, we're going to go over an MLA paper and we're going to go over how it's formatted. Again, formatting is very important. If we don't follow those guidelines, that can hurt our grade. And then finally, a well-constructed thesis statement. The thesis statement being the main idea of our essay. The thesis is an answer to a question. It's our argument. It's the claim that we are making in the essay. And the thesis statement is usually found towards the end of the introduction. And a strong thesis statement, one that's very specific, for example, a thesis statement, a good one could be biofuels are a great way to reduce air pollution in gas engine vehicles. It's specific and it's debatable because there are people that may agree or disagree with that. An example of a bad thesis statement is that global warming is bad for the environment. Um, Perhaps that's true, but it's also very vague and it's very broad. We want to be specific with our thesis statement. So I'm going to exit out of the slide here and let's go to, just for a moment here. There we go. So this is our sample MLA paper here. I'll zoom in a little bit. Now, what you'll notice here on the right hand side, on the header here, top right hand corner, is the last name page number. With MLA format, we want to make sure the last name page number is on the top right hand corner. And again, with Microsoft Word, there's already MLA templates that you could use you can just plug in the information. It's already formatted for you. Again, it just makes your job easier. And then below on the left hand side, we have your name, professor's name, class, and date. And then below that, centered, is the title. Notice the title here, a call to action, regulate use of cell phones on the road. So the title in of itself gives the reader a pretty good idea of what the essay is going to be about, or what the thesis is going to be. So a little clue as to how we can construct a good title. The title should give the reader an idea of what the essay is going to be about. Now also you'll notice double spaced, not triple space or single space, double space. Very important. Okay, that's proper MLA format. Also, we have 1-inch margins on the left and right hand side. That's basically the distance between the text and the border of the paper. So we want to make sure that we have 1-inch margins. Again, the templates in Microsoft Word for MLA format, that already does that for you. So what we're going to do is we're not going to read the entire essay, but I'm going to read the introductory paragraph, because the introduction, the purpose of the intro, is that it sets the foundation for what the essay is going to be about. And it helps guide the reader in. It introduces us to the thesis and our points of development. So let's go ahead and read this out loud. I assume you've already read the sample that I provided for you of this essay. When a cell phone goes off in a classroom or at a concert, we are irritated, but at least our lives are not endangered. When we are on the road, however, irresponsible cell phone users are more than irritating. They are putting our lives at risk. Many of us have witnessed drivers so distracted by dialing and chatting that they resemble drunk drivers, weaving between lanes, for example, or nearly running down pedestrians in crosswalks. A number of bills to regulate use of cell phones on the road have been introduced in state legislatures, and the time has come to push for their passage. Regulation is needed because drivers using phones are seriously impaired and because laws on negligent and reckless driving are not sufficient to punish offenders. Wow, so I think we get a pretty good idea of what this essay is about. Now notice, let's dive into the intro a little bit. We have the first sentence of the intro. When a cell phone goes off in a classroom or at a concert, we are irritated, but at least our lives are not endangered. So this first sentence of the intro is called the hook or the lead. And the purpose of the hook or the lead, it does two things. It gets the reader's attention, and it lets the reader know what the paper is about. And clearly here with this hook, we have a pretty good idea of what this essay is going to be about. That this is going to be about cell phones and how they have the potential to endanger our lives if used inappropriately. More than likely, as we learn when we read later on in the intro, that it's dangerous to be used when you're driving on the road. And after the hook or the lead, we have what is called background information. We provide background information on the topic that we're going to be writing about, which is cell phones. And with the hook or the lead, going back to that real quick, the hook could be a quote, an anecdote, or even a statistic. What the writer could have done here in this case, she could have used a statistic to show perhaps maybe that 50% of drivers are distracted with cell phones when on the road. She can pull some statistic like that. And stats like that are very powerful because, again, they really stress what the essay is going to be about and really what and it helps prove your claim as well. So data like that's very important. But anyway, as you can see in the intro, when I read it out loud, and you'll find that this is the background information that leads then to the thesis statement. The thesis statement found more towards the bottom of the essay, where a number of bills to regulate use of cell phones on the road have been introduced in state legislatures, and the time has come to push for their passage. So the thesis statement, which is, you could argue, is similar to the title, is that we need to regulate use of cell phones on the road. That is the thesis statement. Very precise, clear, and to the point. And again, thesis statements are meant to be debatable. There will be people that will agree with this, and there will be people that will disagree with that thesis statement. The point is to get the reader thinking and create a debate. That's the whole point. So, following the thesis statement, we have what's called points of development. We need to prove our case that cell phones need to be regulated on the road. So, the points of development are that regulation is needed because drivers using phones are seriously impaired and because laws on negligent and reckless driving are not sufficient to punish offenders. Okay, so these are the points of development. We need to pass legislation for cell phone use on the road because drivers are seriously impaired when driving on the road and because current laws aren't sufficient to punish offenders. So those are our points of development. Now, let's go to our first body paragraph. Okay, and I love the sample essay because you see it gives us notes on the right-hand side here, and it highlights the very important parts of the essay, like the thesis statement and the points of development and topic sentences. So this is a great essay to review that gives you a good foundation to kind of work with for future essays. So let's look at this topic sentence here. No one can deny that cell phones have caused traffic deaths and injuries. So this is what's called the topic sentence. The topic sentence is like the thesis in that it lets the reader know which point of development we're talking about in that body paragraph. And in this body paragraph, it's reflecting the first point of development, which that drivers are seriously impaired when using cell phones on the road. And everything in this body paragraph provides supporting details, illustrations, and examples on how drivers are distracted when using cell phones and why we need to pass regulations to prevent drivers from using cell phones on the road. And you can see then, as you read the rest of the essay, how we compartmentalize our content. We have the introduction, it provides background, the thesis, and the points of development. And then every body paragraph is one point of development that helps prove our claim that cell phone use needs to be regulated for drivers on the road. Okay, organization, every paragraph serves a purpose. And then we have the conclusion, which sums everything up, which reintroduces the reader to the thesis and the points of development and hits home what we're trying to say, which that cell phone use needs to be regulated on the road. And that's what you're stressing here. You're like an attorney, you're making your closing argument. So if you want to learn more how to write at an academic level and how to write these type of essays in a high school or college level, you can visit Udemy and go to my course, The Right Style, A Guide to Better Academic Writing. And here you have hours of content on how to be able to construct proper academic papers and how to write in an academic matter, because it's really like a formula where academic writing, there's certain things that you have to do in order to achieve success. And in this course, I really dive into the nuts and bolts of academic writing. It's a course that you really enjoy. Once you purchase the course, you're going to have unlimited access and hours of content that will help you improve your writing. You can also visit my YouTube channel at Teachly University or Teachly U, where I have a number of different lectures covering a variety of topics in writing, entrepreneurship, business, etc. So thank you so much for watching this lecture, and I'll see you next time.